but I couldn't get him to come in, but I could get him to answer me. And so I thought, well, that's good. I can sneak in on him. And so I'd sneak in on him, and I'd try to shoot him from bow, and I had limited success. And I had one of those old, they had these calls they used to squeeze with your teeth. It wasn't anything, it was kind of like this, but it could blow out. Remember those calls, anybody? So I tried using those. Kellen Lancaster said, I'd use this thing. Elk could just come in. So me and my brothers were just crazy about it. We'd try it, and never had any elk come in. So I didn't know what I was doing wrong. And then Scary made a little call, and you'd bite on it with your teeth, and you'd blow through it, and it made kind of a calf sound. And I could get cows to come into that. But I still was just, I remember having a bull coming across the meadow, and he was coming into my call, and I was using an old Avenson call that looked like this. And I'd try to cow call with it. And so I'd try to make those sounds, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I'm sure it didn't sound that good. And I remember this bull was coming across the meadow up there at the Salt River, and he was like running to my call. So I was so excited I couldn't hardly stand it. So I backed up in the trees. And I thought, I don't know why I hit my call, because he was just coming full speed, just on the low, had his hands up, and there was like dew on the willows and stuff. And I hit that call again, and he put on his brakes. I mean, he took off running as fast as he could. I ain't calling no more. And all my friends at school, like, I called locate him, and I don't call anymore because it scares mom. I'm like, yeah, me too. And then I met Brad, and Brad showed me one or two things that changed everything with my elk calling. And it was Primo's elk call, and they look like this. I didn't bring one tonight because I lost my last call, my lucky call. But they essentially look like this. And he said, watch some of the Primo's videos. And old Will Primo does a good job of this. But he showed me what a cow mew is. And it really changed everything what I was doing. All of a sudden, bulls started coming in. And it just sounds something like this. Just a soft, nice, pretty little mew. And I couldn't make that sound when Brad first showed it to me. So it took a lot of practice. But we were out guiding, so we had lots of time to practice it. And as time went on, the bulls started running in again. But it took a while. And so that really changed my career. Thanks, Brad. It changed the success that I was having as an elk hunter. And then, so that's the basic cow mews. And I said on some of my social media, like, if you can't make any other sound, if you can only make one sound and it's a cow mew, then stick to it and use that, and you'll have success. Would you agree with that, Brad?
I do. If you try to get too fancy, sometimes most of these bulls have been called in before, and if it don't sound right to them, they're not going to come.
Yeah, and cows make those mew sounds throughout the year. I hear them making on the feed ground. I hear them making in the fall when they're in heat. I hear them making like pre-rut. Sometimes they quiet down a little bit. You have to be a little careful, but usually if you pop your head over, they're not making any sounds. If you want to experiment, just pop out one of those right there. It's just about the simplest sound that I can think of to make.
Even bulls will do it too. They don't vocalize with each other with the mew also.
Yeah. So there's that. That's your basic cow mews. And I'm starting off the basics, and I'm going to build up some stuff if I have time here. With bull sounds, I've got a plethora of calls here. I'm going to start with my favorite one. This is a gray amp made by Phelps. It's just a simple single latex. It's got really good consistency. I have a whole bunch of bugle tubes over here. If you guys have any questions, you can ask me. This is my favorite one. This is the one that Phelps has come out with. It's called the V2 Unleashed. And it's really effective. It's a harder plastic, so it doesn't have that plasticky sound that thinner plastic ones make, like that baseball bat over there and a few other calls. Some of them just sound too plasticky. This one is half aluminum down to here, made by Rocky Mountain. And it's plastic from here on out. And this neoprene actually quiets it down quite a bit and takes away that plasticky sound. So I actually like this. They have some baffling in there. This is like a $75 call. So it's a little more expensive, and it's a little heavier for backpackers, you guys that are out in the woods trying to get back in the backcountry and bugle. But it's a good sound. So keeping it simple with elk on bull calls, if they're not really going for the chuckles or you're having a hard time chuckle, you can just start with your short bugles, whistle only, no chuckles, medium to small bull sounds. And I'll do the best demo I can of that. You know, I put a little throat in there on accident at the end. Sometimes that's a little intimidating to bulls. Most of the time, it's not. But if you're not sure if they're going to be called smart or not, just stick to the basics. That's the basics. Please skip to the next slide, please. Make you put your penis down.
Pretty serious.
Okay, so learning to bugle elk is like learning a foreign language. And people always say, well, are you going to share all this stuff with everybody? Sure, I'm going to share it with them. It would be like learning Russian. You can teach them Russian in a day or two, but how much are they really going to retain? People that have gone out and experienced for themselves what it's like, you can teach them a couple things, and they can add that, like I did when Brad was showing me some stuff. I already had a lot of experience, a lot of failed experiences. So when he taught me just a few things, it can take your experience and really change it. But it is like learning a foreign language. Next slide, please. And like I said, I keep 5% of myself, and I'm sure all you guys do too. There's just tricks that you're like, nobody's ever gonna know that. It's almost embarrassing to talk to people about. And it's just those little tricks that nobody's ever really gonna know. Maybe a secret product that you've never shown anybody, pull it out of your back pocket. And that bull's hanging up at 75 yards, you get that call or something, or maybe it's just a tactic that you bust out and allows you to get in that last little bit when you're archery hunting bulls. I'm going to skip through this pretty quick. The top leading guys on cow calls or elk calls right now is probably Phelps. Primos has been a leader for a long time. They probably kill it on sales because you see them in stores all across the nation. They still make some of the greatest calls out there, but I feel like they haven't updated for a while, and so they're kind of getting outdated a little bit by Phelps. And Jason Phelps is an engineer by trade, and he's always coming up with crazy designs, and it's been really fun to follow him a little bit. The Rocky Mountain hunting calls, they're having a little bit of a riff with Corey and leaving the company and somebody buying them out and all that stuff, but they still produce some of the greatest elk calls on the market. And then there's just a plethora of other calls. And we've even tried to develop a custom call on our own. We haven't released the product that we are totally satisfied with, but we're always trying to develop that next sound just like everybody else is. So that's a pretty good call there. That's a custom call, made here locally by DJ Calls. Next slide, please. Ribbon. You'll see some ribbon calls. They have a wood call that's $350. And it makes the most beautiful sounds I've ever heard. And there's a kid named Bo Brooks, and he can make sounds that I can't make, quite frankly. Chuckles and whatnot. Go ahead and skip the next slide. Next slide. This is the easy sucker. I'll probably just skip it. Brad, if you want to talk about some of this a little bit, I'll just go over briefly, and then you can delve into this a little more. Because this is kind of the stuff that Brad was explaining to me. This is basic cow. This is basic cow language. Up to more like the more sophisticated sounds like cow bugles, lost cow, calf sounds, lost cow, estrus sounds. These are all sounds that the elk understand very well. And it's the sounds that the bulls really pick up on and are very interested in coming in. And some of these I'm good at making. Some of them are really hard to make. But Brad, you want to take it from here for a little bit?
Well, so basically, I'm a little bit different than James. I don't bugle a whole lot. Just over the years, I've chased too many bulls off. I'm tired of chasing them. So 10 years ago, I pretty much never ever bugled again, so I just developed some different cow calls. And one being the hyper lip. And it's a drawn out, almost like a siren. Man, I had a bull come running from 700 yards away, across the creek, came right to us and we killed him. And I thought, man, that worked out pretty good. So then I showed it to Kerry Chadwick. And he went out and started having success with it. I think the next day he killed 2 bulls. But so I've always been more attracted to the cow calls and trying to perfection them. And every year, the bulls get a little smarter. I think every bull over a 5-point bull is probably been called in once or twice. So you got to treat them a little bit different every year. So, but I basically just use the hyper lip, the cap. If you can get a calf, make it sound like a calf's lost the herd. A lot of times them bulls come looking for him to help them back in, or just to check her if she's a 2 or 3-year-old coming into the heat her first time. You may be more interested in that also. So, but basically, yeah, with the cow call, I've had a lot of success. Now, sometimes you'll get a bull that'll hang up out there 100 yards. They gotta, seems like you get them 100 yards away from you, and all of a sudden they just, you think they've left, but they'll stay there. And some of the tricks there, you can try to cut him off when he's bugling. Say he starts bugling, you cut him off, boy, that fires him up. There's a lot of stuff you can do without. You can rub trees. You can do it with luck. Just bang on the end of your tube like this. They have a. It's hard to do with this too, but they'll do it. Try this with luck. But sometimes you'll hear bulls when they get in closer. When they're really excited, they'll do it. And you might have a video to show them, I don't know. But just little things like that will get that bull when he's hung up 100 yards. But my favorite is just I'll turn away from him and do just a light calf call. And then you turn your head different directions and make it sound like 3 or 4 of his cows are there. And pretty soon a lot of times that last 100 yards he might come in quiet. So don't ever think he's not there. Give yourself have a lot of patience, and they usually show up. So.
You want to give us a couple demos on your?
But yeah, the hyper lip is more like, and when they're ready to breed, you'll hear it a lot, but it sounds like this. And you draw it out, and it kind of sounds like an alarm on a fire truck. And that's how Kerry Chadwick first sounded. We all went like this when he did it. But I seen the videos. He called in 3. They had one hunter kill a bull, and they were sitting there getting ready to take care of it. And there's bulls bugling all around them. And you hear Kerry in the background just doing that alarm. And these bulls were coming in from different directions. And this one guy just kept videoing them. But it did something that triggered them, was up on the wolf room. And so I thought at first he's just going to scare elk out of the country, but it did something. So, but now he does it kind of like I do now, and you probably do the hyper lip the same way. But most guys are, and they're having great success with it. But if you can sound like a calf, a lost calf, or even a lost cow that's not away from the herd, they'll just kind of do a soft call. Almost like a whine. That'll help you out a lot.
You guys can imitate what he's doing right now. You went out the field. I promise you kill elk because I've seen him kill hundreds of them. I just follow along and try to load all the elk on the horse and back them out back down.
So do you cold call with cow calls, or are you waiting until you hear the bull bugle, or?
No, you got to think that you're out there and you got to become an elk. You might not think there's any elk around, but if I'm riding down the trail, I'll just cow call once in a while. It's caught me off guard before, and here comes a bull running down the horse trail at you. But most times they'll let you know they're there. Right at daylight, I like to bugle, try to locate a bull. Then once I got him located, then I try to get in within a couple hundred yards of him, and start working with the cow call. He's probably going to know that there's a bull with it, or with the cows. But until he's going to be a little confused at first. But if you can, or some guys just like to go right at him and just bugle like crazy, make noise, break tree limbs, and that's a good way. That's not my method of doing it. I kind of like to be a little bit patient. If it takes 2 hours to get a bull in, then I'll do that. But instead of chasing. just think you're an elk out there. Just try to become you're in their house. So, and never try to panic and try to get in there quick. Just take your time and work. They know you're there. You don't have to. A lot of guys will go out there and just call and call and call and call, and pretty soon that bull's gonna say this ain't right. Just be patient.
Well, thanks, Brad. It's a privilege to have you delve into some valuable information about what I was doing. And he says you want to think like an elk. Brad's in a cow's position, like probably cows moving through the woods and looking for a bull. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what I always try to, and everybody's got different strategies. Here in about 3 or 4 months, we're going to talk to Dan Merritt. He's going to come in here and tell us how done we are for calling. He's got a different tactic, and it works. So there's multiple tools. You just put them in your belt, and you might have to use them as time goes on. But my tactic is always what I go for. I'm going for that, what was the word? The zenith of elk calling. For me, that is getting a bull to want to come in and fight another bull and take his cows. That is the ultimate for me. It happened to me when I was 23 years old, and I was calling. I was actually deer hunting. All that I had with me was just one cow call. And so he wasn't coming in to fight me, but there was another bull answering him, and he would come in, and he didn't come to me as a cow. He wanted to come in and fight that other bull, and they stayed outside of me. I was cow calling, doing the estrus thing, and this bull was fired up, and this bull was fired up, and this bull come over here, and he come underneath me in the trees, and went over and started fighting this bull. That's who I want to be. I want to be that guy. And so what I do is I get my cow calls going, estrus cow calls. I kind of just keep my distance from them for quite a while. I'm talking like 2 or 3 hours, and just see how they're going to respond to everything. If it's too much when I'm calling and making big bull sounds, if it's too much, I just go back to the basic, go back to the simple elk calls, and usually it's the cow calls. But if they're eating it up, then I pour it on. And usually what I do is I hit a few cow calls, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to imitate a herd of about 10 elk coming through the trees, which requires a little bit of stick breaking, right? And there's a bull with them, maybe a small bull, and that big bull's chasing the little bull around. That's what I'm trying to imitate for a sound, which is a lot of noise, which is fun for me because I like making a lot of noise. If Brad went home with me, he'd be like, hey, be quiet. Come on too much. Make too much racket. And sometimes I do push those elk away. And when they do come in, they want to come in and fight, and it's fun. But I'll hit a few cow calls. These sound, in my opinion, these sound really obnoxious in a room like this. But out in the woods, they just sound beautiful. And if you're 100 yards from this, you go, oh man, that sounds like a good cow, But in the room, sometimes they sound obnoxious. This isn't the greatest call for cow calling, but just for simplicity purposes, I'm going to use it. And I'm going to use the baseball bat here. This is too plastic out in the woods, but it makes good sounds in the rooms. So I try to make cow calls. And Brad didn't talk about the estrus buzz, but he taught me this back in the day. It had a little throat to it, and they call it the estrus buzz. And in my opinion, what that means is it's just an older cow communicating, and maybe with a little more emotion than your average cow. And so you get that whine in there, and that you just get him cranking. If the bull's hot, he's going to start cranking. But those are the kind of calls that make elk calls fun. Would you agree? So you got to be a little careful where you use it. And I look for dumb elk. I look for elk that I've never heard the elk call, and they just crank, But I try to make those cow calls, and then right after, I try to answer myself with a bull call. Make it sound like there's a cow over there. She's lost. She's in heat. She's looking for a cow. And then I try to imitate the big bull coming to kick your butt. Will you go to the next slide, please?
I might say one thing while
Go ahead.
we're talking about cows. If you cut a cow call off too short or too quick, it can resemble a bark. And elk do bark at each other. And if they hear that, they're gone. They'll completely leave the country. So that's their way of telling everybody to get the heck out of here. So Just make sure you draw it out at the end and don't stop it too quick.
Elk bark. Those short ones, that's a warm bark. No. That's probably the sound I first made when that bull comes across the meadow. Get the heck out of here.
Okay. Sometimes the bull will hang up and do that call because he's probably been called in before and he's starting to catch on to you. But I've actually called bulls in that's sat there and barked. I see all the elk running off in the trees, but he's still not convinced. So with the right cow calls, you can still bring him in. He's got his mind on one thing, so you can trick him.
I was gonna say the same thing. I've called them back in with kind of the bark back and getting them a little bit more fired up and a little extra noise, like breaking brush, branches, like you're more of an out than a person standing trying to bugle at them. I've called them.
Or even growl at him. Some bulls.
Don't ever give up. It ain't over till it's over.
Right.
I've had them bark at me and leave. Usually what they do is they stand there. An elk bark means, and you'll see them do this, you'll see them going. They're going to look at you. Well, what that means is it means, I'm an elk, show yourself, I want to see what you are. And usually I can't go out there and go, I'm an elk too. Nope. And so I just ignore it and I get louder. I start making more cow calls. I don't bark back because it almost like raises the alarm sensation in them. And I just start cow calling and bugling like, I'm just an elk, just forget about it, you know? But I've heard guys bark back at them and have success, so it's something you can try. But this is typically what I do, and I've found a lot of success with it. I hit the cow call. This is more of my long range call. Make a little bit of a whine in there, a couple calls followed up. And I like to answer with a good old bull call. And so that tells that bull that there's 4 or 5 cows over there, a couple of them are in heat, little calf running around, and there's a bull working them cows. And like Brad said with the glunker, some guys can do it with their throats, some guys just go like this. Use the glunker. But what I want that bull to do is come in emotionally, passionately, want to come in and fight. That's fun for me. That is the zenith of elk calling, in my opinion. So I hope you guys learned from some of that. Let's skip through the slides and just see what's next. I don't remember what's.
How loud are you?
What's next on this?
It depends.
Okay, go back one more week.
Oh, say you feel bad, I'll calm it down a little bit. I'll just handle it. But if I'm trying to locate a bull,
Just go select that slide
I'll
over
get
there.
after it. Blow up pretty hard sometimes.
Which one? Is this one?
Sometimes if you go too hard when they're in close, they expect it like a little bit more. I really
So
think.
the close there, bring it back.
Yeah, bring it down.
So this is the bull. This was a dominant hurt bull that we were having a hard time working. But by the time we finally got him to come in, we'd already shot this bull 30 yards. By the time we got him to come in again, he was fired up and really just acting dumb. And he came in, I couldn't stop him. He's coming in, wanting to fight, and that's what I'm after. So hope you guys learned something from that. We got a couple more minutes, Brad. You can take from here, and then we'll have a couple of minutes discussion. Then we'll have Brad give us a spiel.
Sometimes, like bulls, once you trick them, they'll come to you. I've had hunters shoot an arrow through one side, the bull runs off and I call him back, and had an arrow go through the other side of it. And so that tells you they're totally convinced that you're doing something right. So, but just keep cow calling and working. Once you get them to a certain point, they're going to come in.
Yeah, once they're committed, you told me once they're committed, don't back off on your calls because they're committed and they're coming in. You don't keep pouring it on. Okay. Questions, comments?
Brad, do you cow call all throughout September? Doesn't matter if it's late, doesn't matter if it's early.
I called in a bull this year on October 28th. He came 1,100 yards from where I started videoing him, and he came all the way down across the river, come up all the way through the timber just with cow calls.
He was single.
He was a single bull, yeah, he had gotten away from the cows. And we killed him.
Was he vocal or are you coming quiet?
Yeah, well, that's how I knew he was there. I heard him bugle over in the timber over across the Willow Creek up in the whole back. And I didn't think he'd hear my cow call, but he's standing in a little open meadow and I just blew a cow call. And then you see him turn and he didn't say nothing for a minute. My cow call again, then assured him. And then you watch him bugle on the video. And then 5 seconds later you hear him bugle. But then all of a sudden here he comes trotting down through the meadow there. And then we lost sight of him because we were on the east side of Willow Creek. But then I was pretty sure he was coming, so I got the pointer off the horse, got him in a position. And then he was going to work around us a little bit. He wanted to get above us. And so I just let out another cow call. But then I moved over to the right about 100 yards. And that bull redirected and came right up under the 100. He shot him at 50 yards with the right. Yeah, so cows, if they don't get bred the first time, when they first come in heat, about 23 days later, they'll come in to heat again just for a couple days. And then bulls, if they cinch that, they can get fired up again. So I've heard bulls bugle in the middle of winter up here. You always hear the cows on the feed grounds talking.
And every winter I see a cow get bred.
Yeah.
So they do come in heat. Cows, just like cattle, can come in heat any time of the year, but because of the amount of light that they're getting through their eyeballs, which is like a photosensitivity thing, it tells them whether they should come in heat or not. And so, just by nature design, they come in heat in September and October, so they'll have calves in April, June, March, May and June, April, May, somewhere there. But they're programmed to have those calves early, green grass, and then be big enough to wean when they need to forage in the winter.
I believe them cows also know what kind of winter we're going to have. And so last fall, or this fall, I think them cows know when to come in to eat also, or Mother Nature. But so they just weren't responding good around the 10th or so. The bulls were still gathering up cows, and that's the best way to kill them big herd bulls is when they're gathering cows. But the rut just seemed different this year. It was tough. But all the way through October, we're hearing bulls every day. Another view going there after cows.
Oh yeah. Okay, well, that's about what I wanted to cover. That's just tip the iceberg on elk calling. We could delve into pre-rep like I was going to, but we're kind of just wanting to move along here. And so, Nigel, I should have introduced you. Sorry about that. We'll have Nigel present after Brad. Nigel moved from Oregon.
Yeah.
And has a couple degrees in wildlife, has a lot of experience with the state and now with